This is where I have Hakeem Olajuwon.
This is blasphemy. To borrow my Stephen A. Smith, this is blasphemy. I should be yelling till I'm hoarse right now.
Hi guys, welcome. We've got another special edition here for you. Football did start this week, but we kind of hit that. We've only got one real thing to talk about. Baseball's kind of going on.
Pain, if we're talking about football.
Again, it's one game. It's game one of a 16-game season. If you thought you were going 16-0, I'm sorry to disappoint you. You were not going 16-0.
I mean, I thought we were going 0-16, but it's still sadness and pain.
But that, and honestly, the series that are going on, the NBA series that are going on right now, are not exactly the most entertaining series going on right now. If we're being,
we have Game 7 of the podcast between the Celtics and the Raptors going on right now that we decided we just didn't want to watch.
Yeah, that's what's gonna. So there's really, despite sports coming back, there's really nothing going on right now because. Yes, as much as I love hockey and as much as I love the stuff that's hockey going on, I know I'm in the minority. So, yes, I will take a break from watching hockey. But also then, my team is out too. So, thus my clean shaven.
The Stars are going to win now. So,
thus my clean shavenness.
Yeah, and the Stars are just going to go run away with it now?
They're not. Because there is a God, which means Corey Perry is going to get injured. And most of that team is going to get injured because they're dirty. Edit that out.
So, what actually started this in my mind and my brother's mind is people have been talking lately about where does Kawhi Leonard rank all time? And I've seen a lot of people start putting him top 5. That's insane. For those of you who know about me, we've put up on our website of Sports and More Sports. I did a top 100. I've actually ranked my top 200 NBA players. A little bit of that ranking has changed with some feedback from that article, but not a ton. But a little bit has changed. The main people to get hurt with that were John Stockton, dropped a lot, and then I dropped Kevin McHale even more. So Kevin McHale did not end up fair. I had him
as a Rockets fan. No love lost for Kevin McHale.
I had Kevin McHale ranked as a top 15 player when I first started my list. He is now, I think, 70. So
no love lost.
He dropped a lot for me.
Look, if you coach that bad, you don't deserve to make the list. No love lost for Kevin McHale. And I think Sean might agree with me.
Maybe. So the big thing for my list, I don't just rank like if you drop this player into 2019, what would they do?
That's not a fair way to assess anything.
I don't think that at all.
So let me group and let me tell people what we actually are doing. So we haven't actually got. So here, this right here is our we've got two people here. The Ennis twins, the Ennis brothers, are going to give us their top 20 players in NBA history. I don't know their actual full reasoning or logic behind it, but that's also kind of I think that there is something to that because, and I think even whenever I make my own lists, I have my own guys that violate, my own rules. Like, no, I'm going totally on this. But this factor over here is amazing, and I love this. I mean, the biggest one for me, I think, of movies. I hate when movies have things happen because movie. Like that no, there's no real reason for this to happen. Or movies that are supposed to be based in reality are so unbelievably unrealistic and crazy. Right. But you know what I love? I love the Fast and the Furious movies. That's right now. None of that's possible. dragging a billion-ton safe down a freeway by 2 Dodge Chargers at like 100 miles an hour. Those Dodge Chargers cannot move that safe. They've got a lot of torque and horsepower. They're not moving that thing, even 2 of them.
Right.
You know what? I don't care about that. So yes, even in our own rules, we're going to break our own different rules. That's why we're not going to set a standard here on this list of these are the guys that you think are this. Whether, you know, there could be guys that you have ranked in a certain position because of how, you know, sheer stats they put up. That's one way to go. Another way to go, how influential they are in the league. That's another way to go. How many rings they have in the league. There's a bunch of different things to take into consideration that these guys are going to do. So they're going to go top 20. If you want to take
the cool thing we get to do is we get to just be honest. There's not a single person we're going to talk about today that's a bad player.
Yes. Well,
like
maybe one.
I mean, maybe one, and he's on my list. So maybe one, but there's not a single person that is a bad player that is just terrible. And this is like when you're talking about the top 20 of. We've had almost 3,000 people have played. Almost 4,000 people have played in the NBA, and we're talking about the top 20. So this is a big deal, and it's fun.
So who's the oldest?
I am.
You are. All right. So age before beauty.
Okay.
You're twins. I'm aware. I just
yeah, that's what I was about to say.
That's the joke. All right. So you go ahead.
36 minutes
to go through. We're going to start at 20, and we're just going to go on from there. All right. So whenever you're ready.
Okay. 20 for me is David Robinson. The main things that I want to take away from David Robinson, I don't like to go just by career stats, because especially for people like him who played for like a long time, and then also didn't start their prime, or didn't like he missed 4 years playing in college, and then another 2 years with the Navy. So he had a shorter career, and it was also a later career. I like to do prime stats: 26 points, 12 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, and 4 blocks. The Admiral was a monster. The way that I describe him in my top 100 is this: the Admiral was incredible. Think Cat's offense with Marc Gasol's defensive IQ, and Gobert's body with the strength of Embiid and the athleticism of Bam. And that's selling him short. Now, full disclosure, I had a David Robinson signed poster. When I had an office, that was the centerpiece of my office, and everything revolved around that poster. Now, because I'm moving, it's in storage right now. But the Admiral was amazing. And honestly, I could have him a lot higher personally. But I tried to temper some of that just a little bit. So
my rebuttal can't be that hard. I don't have David Robinson in my top 10, but he is in my next 5 out that I picked. He's great. I made the comparison between him and James Harden this week. I think David Robinson deserved MVPs. He deserved All-Stars. He deserved his All-NBA appearances and his scoring titles and all these things he had. Totally well-deserved. But his team refused to build around him in a way that was conducive to winning until Duncan got there. And basically, in my opinion, wasted his prime. I feel like Daryl Morey and Mike D'Antoni have gone all in on this small ball approach with an attempt to make history and raise the ceiling of this team, when in all reality, all they've done is waste a prime of a supreme talent. And I feel like that's the way that Larry Brown treated David Robinson until Greg Popovich got there and fixed everything.
One last thing to put. I put that David Robinson was a great passer and a one-man offense, the second best defender of the 90s. He was the best big man on the Dream Team. And Robinson was so awesome, and he probably didn't even live up to his full potential.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to keep most of my opinions out on my other ones, but if there's something else that comes, I will say this: the fact that you've got him out of your top 20 and you've only got him at 20, I think he might be the lowest. He might be the most disservice player. Like looking at you, I'm the only one who's seen both lists. there are a number of people on both of your lists that I would definitely put him above, and I would move the list down based on. I think there. I mean, the Harden thing. The difference is, and we mentioned this slightly in chat. I think there are things that Harden does that result in his team losing. There are ways and styles that Harden plays that result in his team losing. I don't believe there was anything that Robinson did that resulted in his team losing.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Especially in the 90s, he got matched up with the best big man of all time multiple times in the playoffs and just lost. Like, I mean, that's not a knock on Robinson. I think it's very fair that just like Harden keeps getting knocked off by Steph in the playoffs, Robinson got knocked off by Elijah.
The other thing I'll put it in there is, yes, like he needed Duncan to win, but those early Spurs teams, yes, Duncan was on that team. Robinson was still the best player at the beginning. I think the better thing, and actually they're almost compatriots. That reminds me more of the Kobe Shaq teams, where when they first won a championship, Shaq was the best player on that team, and Kobe was Robin. And then at one point they switched. Now I think the dynamic was much easier on those first teams, but that Dave Robinson, the Admiral, was the best player. Eventually Duncan took over as the best player. Yes, but
I will disagree with you on both counts. I think Shaq was the better one the entire time they were in LA. Mm-hmm. And then I also think Robinson conceded before they won championships.
Yes, before they won championships, definitely. And maybe even statistically, Duncan was better their rookie year, or his rookie year. But that we can't sit here and nitpick.
Spoiler alert, Tim Duncan's going to be a lot higher on both of our lists.
Yes. All right. But anyway, so going on that, so not wanting to take over, that's my one little bit that I'll have. I've got maybe one more that I will comment on.
So
after that. If you want to know, you go ahead
for me with 20. So I have a philosophical reasoning when I'm making this. Anytime you do a best ever, you're also attempting to tell the story of your sport. And in a philosophical way, you are trying to tell the story of your sport. And I don't think you can tell the story of basketball and not mention a multiple-time MVP in Moses Malone. I do have another multiple-time MVP who missed my top 20, and that's Steve Nash. But there's a good chance you could throw him in either my 19 or 20 spot. For the same reasonings, I've got these two guys in my 19 and 20 spot. Moses Malone was an incredible rebounder, hustle guy. He was the type of person that coaches built their resume telling kids to be like, and just an effort dude. But when you look at it, I don't know that it translated to play on the court. I look at a lot of advanced stats, and he doesn't look like he was the best player on his team most nights.
In fact, his championship year, most advanced stats show that he was the year that he won the championship. So he won MVP and Finals MVP, and obviously the championship. And he was the 5th person on that team for win shares and for value over replacement player and for plus minus. He was the 5th guy on that team, which is kind of crazy to think about. Obviously, the best player on that team, I have a lot higher, and I'm assuming a lot higher than a lot of other people have him.
He will be quite a bit higher on this list for me as well. That's Dr. J. We'll get to him in a minute. I just don't think you can tell the story of the NBA and not mention Moses.
Now, that being said, as much as I did not have Moses in my top 20, Moses Malone is 21 for me. So he's not that far out. We are one spot different on that. So, yeah.
But that's not one that I have anything to contribute to. Moses, I mean, are there people? Yes. If I was making a list, would I have someone? Probably, other than Moses Malone there. But I can't guarantee that I wouldn't have another Malone in that position, but that's neither here nor there. But so going on to our first big one. So we're going to go to 19. Spoiler alert, because we're about to get right to it right away. This one, there is dissension in this. I received a full top 25 list. The person that both these guys have at 19, the other one didn't have in their top 25. So there is some dissension here. I don't know if it's really that much because we're in this weird spot where dissension's like, okay, sure, I guess that works. The bigger number, doesn't mean as much as it means we get close to the top.
Yeah.
But go ahead and give us your 19.
Why don't you start with this one? We'll go back and forth.
So I will start with, and this again kind of falls in line with what I said about Moses Malone. You've got to tell the story of the NBA. I don't think you tell the story of the NBA, especially where we're at right now with the way players act and interact with social media and other things without mentioning Allen Iverson. I do not think you can do that. This is one where, again, I do not think, if this was a pure talent thing, I do not think I could conceivably have Iverson even in my top 40. If this was a pure talent evaluation, Iverson might be out of my top 40. But I do not think you can tell the story of the NBA without Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson is one of the top 5 most influential people in NBA history. The only people I can think that I would say have been more influential are Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Red Auerbach, Michael Jordan, and James Naismith.
I would argue my 19 is more influential than Iverson. But I do want to point out, I do have Iverson on my list. I am not kind to Allen Iverson. He's one of the few people that I'm very not kind to, him and Kevin McHale. I'm very not kind. I have Iverson ranked at 59. I have him right ahead of Manu Ginobili. Because he wasn't that good. I gotta say it. He wasn't that good. He was traded, when he was traded for Chauncey Billups, all of a sudden they got better. They got better. Chauncey Billups was better than him. Sorry.
I'll say this. There's a lot of carryover between my 19 and 20. Moses Malone got traded in his prime. Got traded the year after winning an MVP.
Mm-hmm.
And the team got better.
Yep.
And so there's a lot of carryover between those two. But I think with both of them, you can't tell the story of the NBA without mentioning them.
What I've mentioned this on other players we've talked about before, and I think this is the biggest thing. I think this will be the biggest knock for me on AI. Again, and I went as a Nuggets fan. I went to a number of Nuggets games, watched AI play, and was blown away. Loved watching AI and play. There was very few things more beautiful than AI and Melo clicking as teammates and actually playing really well. It was amazing. But I'm going to say this, despite the numbers he put up, and I understand he dragged a team by himself to a finals, but he was also responsible with the way he played the game, the actions, the decisions he made on court, and by extension off court, resulted in losses. He lost games for players.
That's a very fair assessment.
Doing what he did, playing Allen Iverson basketball, resulted in losses. And resulted in his team not doing well. Yes. Should there have been a better team around him? Yes. But that's not the argument. No, he did stuff to contribute to the losses of his team. But go ahead and go ahead, Jordan.
Okay, so as far as the most impactful players on the history of basketball, you cannot at all mention that list without George Mikan. There is no NBA if you do not have George Mikan. One of the things that I talk about when I do my top 100 is I count all the leagues that merged together to become the NBA. I count those stats. So I count the NBL stats, I count the BAA stats, and I count the ABA stats. As far as official NBA records, they only count BAA and NBA stats. But I count all of them. With George Mikan, he played in 3 of those 4 leagues, and he was the commissioner of the 4th. So he kind of touched all of those leagues, but he was 6'10", and before this, short people were the only ones that played basketball. In fact, he was cut from his basketball team before he was allowed to try out because he was told he was too tall to play basketball. That is not something that we talk about anymore. He was a 7-time champion. He was an MVP the one year they had the MVP in the NBL, and then in the BAA and the NBA they didn't have MVP until after he retired. He was a 4-time All-Star, which was every time that they had All-Star teams when he was playing. And he was an 8-time All-NBA, BAA, or NBL player, which was, again, every time that they had those awards. 4-time scoring champion. He was absolutely amazing. He was voted the greatest player of the first half century by the Hall of Fame. So he was the greatest player to play before 1950 of any player ever. And he was also on the 25th anniversary team, the 35th anniversary team, and 50th anniversary team. And I guarantee he's going to be on the 75th anniversary team when they do it in 2 years. I do want to read just a little bit. I'm just going to straight up read what I have, and then I won't defend anymore. From impact alone, I don't think any single player affected the league as much as Big Mike, the first true superstar. His Lakers leaving the NBL after his first year with the team, his first year had been with the Chicago All-American Gears, forced the NBL to seek merger with the BAA, creating the NBA. Mr. Basketball in his prime averaged 33% of his team's points, 14% of his team's assists, and 25% of his team's rebounds, winning 78% of the championships that he played for. He did all of this while basically inventing the fundamentals of a big man while he went along. Until Mikan the Magnificent, size was considered a liability in basketball. At one point, MSG's marquee read GEO, or George, Mikan versus the Knicks. He was that singularly dominant, pairing with Jim Pollard, who barely missed my top 100 list, and Vern Mickelson, number 96. He dominated the first decade of professional basketball. Mikan was cut from his basketball team before being allowed to try out because he was too tall and he wore glasses. He eventually made the team in college as his coach made him run side to side and up and down until his speed and footwork were better than the guards. His coach even made him dance with the shortest and smallest girls at the school dances to improve his footwork. His hook shot was basically unstoppable and hard to guard. In fact, the fact that goaltending wasn't a rule until The Monster proved how much it changed the game, proves how incredible he was. The paint was moved to just 6 feet across to 12 feet across because of Mikan. The skyhook is based completely off of his footwork. Mikan drills are taught to every big man. The Fort Wayne Pistons held the ball for an entire game to keep Mikan from scoring, leading to the creation of the shot clock. Mikan has his fingertips on the lead, almost definitely more than any other individual player. 19 might be too low for this all-time record.
So I'm only going to disagree in the fact that my idea would probably skew a little bit more towards where modern players have changed the league, because it's easier to change. It's easier to change an unestablished league. That's my only argument, my only difference. Mikan wasn't in my top 25, but I don't think it's unreasonable to have him in the top 20 by any means. Is extremely influential, extremely important. Like we said, was commissioner of the ABA, all these things. And I would say if you have him any lower than 30, you probably need to reevaluate anything that you have ever watched with basketball.
If you want to see Mikan highlights, the Wilt Chamberlain archive on YouTube has Mikan highlights where they show how much faster and how much stronger he was than everybody at the time. And it's amazing to watch this guy who's just a ginormous player and how much faster he is than all the guards running back and forth.
I'm not a huge NBA fan, but I mean, I enjoy sports and I love that. The hardest point for me having him at 20, again, I don't deny anything you said, but on your original list when you first sent the big thing, I had to Google him because I had no idea who you were talking about. And that could be because the NBA is really bad at marketing its own history. But I know 1920s football players. I know 1920s hockey players. I know 1920s baseball players. Without Googling, I see it. I see everything there. But top 20, there's got to be some kind of the average sports fan should know. But again, that's the only thing I've got for you. But all right, 18. At 18, we have our first, I'm going to call it controversy or, major disagreement. We've got a four position swing.
This is where Sean is probably going to cry and be mad. But this is where I have the big ticket. Look, KG was incredible. There's nothing that you can say to explain how good at defense Kevin Garnett was. The fact is that he was awesome. He's probably underrated as a player, but he's definitely overrated as a tough guy. I will die on that hill. KG was a fake tough guy. He would start fights and then he would run away. I'm dying on that hill. That being said, KG is awesome. He was the best player on the worst big three in Boston history. He was awesome. He was incredible.
I would beg to differ that Jaylen Brown.
Okay, well, I was
Jason
meaning
Tatum
the
and-
two that are actually called the big three.
Okay.
But KG was awesome. He was great. The reason I have him low is that when he moves to Boston, he has his stats drop so much that it's the same statistical drop-off as Chris Bosh has when he goes from the Raptors to the Heat. That's a huge drop-off. Now, part of that is I believe that Ray Allen is selfish. I am not kind to Ray Allen in my top 100. You guys can go look at it. I'm not kind to Ray Allen. But KG has a huge drop-off there. KG was the heart and soul of that team. He was the best player. He should have got finals MVP. That did not belong to Paul Pierce. KG's awesome. But to me, there are other people on this list who are more awesome. So that's where I'm going to leave it.
I'll disagree with you.
We're not going to go. We're not going to go to you until you can get your rebuttal when we get to you where you have him.
Yeah, that's fair.
Great.
So just saying, there is a major difference here. I say you both have him too high, but that's just me. But
Ooh. Sean is already writing in hate mail for Ben.
Yeah.
Right now.
I'm okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
He played in Boston. And because of that, he got well marketed and everything. And ESPN wanted to make him a big thing. He grouped up with two other All-Stars, formed the original Big Three, and won one ring. In a time when there really wasn't like there wasn't a dynasty. It wasn't like we talked about some of these other guys where they run into pure dynasty.
The Spurs won it twice. The Lakers repeated. Hard pass on that.
Yeah, how many finals were they in?
3.
Yeah,
3 straight.
3 straight, but you needed to win. That's it. In the East at that time, you should have gone to more. If you're that good. But we're not going to get into that part. So you go ahead and go to your 18. This one's not that big of a drop. So
my 18 is – I don't actually think we're going to disagree much. My 18 is Oscar Robertson. I have a feeling this is right around where you would have him. Mm-hmm. Oscar, I mean, again, one of those guys, quintessential. He actually averaged a triple-double without making his team worse. Cough, cough, Russell Westbrook. And
before they even called them triple doubles, so he wasn't trying to pad his stats for the media.
Yeah. He was great. Oscar was just a fantastic player. He is going to be maligned by a lot of old heads and sports writers pretty poorly because of, if we can be honest, racism. And then Oscar dealt with a bunch of racism as a black man in the early, not necessarily the exact integration era, but as one of the earliest black stars in the league. And then also as the player that fought the hardest for free agency and players' rights.
That's why I think he got more of his bad rap was for the players' rights more than the racism. Not that there wasn't racism, but I think it was because he was vocal for players' rights. However, he had a teammate get paralyzed for the rest of his life, like just in the middle, like he was like 25 years old, and then the teammate just like woke up one day and couldn't move. Like, I would be arguing for health insurance too. So I get that. I will just go ahead and do a spoiler alert.
Go
Robinson's my
ahead.
next.
Take your claim. You've got him at 17, so go ahead and just continue.
We're right there. We're really close. The only thing that I have for Oscar Robinson is he did make a lot of teammates worse because he was so hard on them. He would actually destroy teammates' confidence. That is not leadership. So yeah, that's my big thing for him.
Yeah, Oscar, you can't tell the story of the NBA without Oscar. So who's your 16?
You do your 17.
No, yeah, you got your 17 here. And now, before we get there, this is a 3-person difference. So this one's actually a notable difference here. So we can see if we might have something.
My 17 is Jerry West. Oscar and Jerry West are intertwined, and I felt like I couldn't have them huge separated. Jerry West is called the logo for a reason. Like, I mean, he's good. My only thing is, Oscar and Jerry have the same amount of championships.
Mm-hmm.
Oscar and Jerry have the same amount of Oscar statistically was probably a little bit better than Jerry.
Mm-hmm.
But Jerry just played for a better team, and Jerry kept his head down and didn't get involved in stuff that could have made people hate him.
So
let's hold off on your rebuttal until you get to your, because you've got them pretty close. It's pretty interesting.
The only thing I will say is that if you look on our website of sportsandmoresports.com, if you look at that, I actually have Jerry West lower than Oscar Robinson in that original list. This has moved up the more that I've talked to like my stats people, and the more that I've really looked into that. I actually have West higher now.
Okay, like I think they're almost so intertwined in the way their careers were that I almost felt like I had to have them right beside each other.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So you both equally overrated this player.
Is he the same in our list?
Yeah, you're 16s. So go ahead. Ready? Say them both at the same time. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Dirk Nowitzki.
Look, I'm just going to go with this. Dirk is my favorite player all time. We grew up in Africa. I was tall for my age, and I was the only white guy other than him. Dirk was my favorite. I was a huge Dirk fan. And here's the thing. Dirk affected the way that modern basketball is played more than any player except for Steph Curry. If you look at after the 90s, Dirk is the biggest difference other than Steph Curry. I don't think that you can make an argument for anyone else since the 90s. That being said, Dirk has 2 championships and 2 finals MVPs, an MVP.
2 championships?
Look, if David Stern didn't rig it to make sure that Mark Cuban didn't get a championship, he would have 2. So Dirk has 2 championships, 2 finals MVPs, an MVP, 14 All-Stars, 12 All-NBAs, and he was Jordan's favorite player of all time. Dirk is awesome.
Oh. Note the hat. Note the hat for that
I am
statement.
not biased, and I don't care. Dirk was awesome.
I almost feel like I have to drop Dirk now just because you're so.
Look, Dirk only has 1 championship. It is because Stern rigged it. But that's the thing. Here's the other thing. The biggest argument against Dirk has always been when he was swept by the We Believe Warriors. I'm just going to be completely honest here. If we didn't fire Don Nelson, Dirk never gets swept. Avery Johnson was not a good coach. He wasn't a good coach. Don Nelson was a better coach. Dirk got out-coached, not swept because of worse talent, not because he choked. He got out-coached by the coach who should have still been coaching his team.
I'm gonna. I mean, I don't overly disagree, but the 2 championships thing is really making me want to reevaluate if I want Dirk it. No, Dirk was great. Dirk was great. Dirk is again, Dirk might be one of the ones I'm over evaluating their talent just for their historical significance. But again, Dirk, you cannot have Dirk outside of your top 25 and tell the story of the NBA.
You can't.
For me, it will always come down to watching in the playoffs against the Nuggets, watching Dirk pick up his dribble at the 3-point line. Post up behind somebody. I can't remember who was playing defense. Maybe been Melo playing defense, which Melo was an underrated defender in the playoffs when he actually cared. He actually could play defense when he cared. But he'd pick up his dribble at the 3-point line, and he would put his butt up against Melo, and he would fire off a shot like halfway down the key. And you're like, wait a second. At no point has he dribbled or taken a step. How did he get across the floor? And maybe that will always poison Dirk against
It's
me.
called the Patrick Ewing shuffle.
That's just an image I have of Dirk of just like
It is called the Patrick Ewing shuffle.
like,
And
I get gonna shuffle a little bit, but like the guy cleared like half the offensive floor.
That's
Holding the ball.
how bad Melo was at defense, that Dirk didn't even actually have to move to get closer.
No, the thing is, he did move. He did move. But, all right. So we're gonna go then to 15. So one of you, no, we're not gonna have him. You go ahead and go, Jordan, because one of you. This is the biggest difference of opinion one of you has. The biggest difference in rating on your entire list. So this is the one that should cause an argument. And I don't know whether or not to actually wait, question. Do you want me to skip who it is until we get to the other person's where the other person has it?
No, we can just go for it.
Okay.
I can say it, and then you'll give your rebuttal when we get there.
Okay.
All right.
All right. It's gonna be a while,
yeah.
apparently, because I know your love affair of this person.
Okay.
I have Julius Erving. Like I said, you have, like I said, all of these players are great. All of these players are really good. I have to grade ABA stats on a curve.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like my curve might be a little bit more stringent than yours. Dr. J was great. He was good with the ABA stats. He was really good, and he was a good player. But when the NBA and the ABA merged, Dr. J was not the best player in the NBA.
No.
When they merged, he was never the best player. When you are talking top 15 players of all time, I have to feel like you were the best player at some point. At some point, I have to feel that way. I don't. Shout out to Dr. J for doing one of the most incredible things ever in an ABA finals. He led both teams in all 5 statistics, and that was not done again until LeBron in the Cavs.
Mm-hmm.
Until LeBron in the year the Cavs won. Like, so that's just massive, great thing. And shout out to that super awesome hairdo that maybe needs to make a comeback.
Definitely needs to make a comeback.
So wish I could pull it off. Can't. So I'm not, no disrespect to Dr. J, but you played in a lesser league for a long time, and I have to let that count against you.
So I'll come back to that later. Kevin Durant is who I have at 15. Look, I'm just going to do it. I know he doesn't like this name, but the Slim Reaper is awesome. It's probably the greatest singular offensive talent the NBA has ever seen. The only reason that I have him at 15 and not higher is simply because I think his career could be over. The Achilles injury could destroy him, or it could be that he's just going to become a stretch big and he's still going to be okay. He still might make a few more all-star teams. I don't think he's ever going to be an all-NBA performer again. So I don't feel like I need to defend Kevin Durant being this high. So I'm just going to leave it at that. That's where I have Kevin Durant. I
have him a little bit ahead of you, but negligible amounts. Kevin Durant is great. It was one of the most childish moves of all time for him to go join a team that had beat him. But again, player empowerment. I get that. It was always I do not like the fact that he joined a team that had just beat him, but I'm not going to let that count against him in my idea of it. Kevin Durant was the better player on both Warriors championships where he was better than Steph. Now, Steph was the more important player to how the Warriors played. But Kevin Durant was better than Steph. I don't, spoiler alert again, I don't have Kevin Durant higher than Steph on these rankings. But I don't have him, I've got him at 13. So it's not like I'm going to disagree too much with him. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the big, it's for me, honestly, when I look at it, is it's not even the choice of going, it's the softness of the response. Say what you want about LeBron and the decision, and it was a horrible, stupid move, but he owned it and immediately said, fine, I'll be the villain. I'll be the heel. I'll be that guy. I'm not going to change who I am, but I'll take this mindset and own it. Whereas I've got no problem. No, you lost to this team. You have an opportunity to go. The point of the game is to go win championships and go win games. You've got an opportunity to sign on the best team. They can pay you as much money as you want. They have a position for you. Not going there is stupid. But you've got to own it when you say when people say, "Man, you joined another team," and you go, "Yeah, I joined it, and we're about to put on a show. Let's go." You know that's how you have to own it.
I think LeBron handled it as weird as the decision was. LeBron handled the decision way better than Kevin Durant handled my next chapter.
Yeah, like it worked. It's fine. Like I said, I've got no problem with doing it. Again, it's the smart move. Like. Yeah. It's taking the easy way. No. It's the smart move. Best team in the league has room for you and can pay you.
Do I get to say who I have now and then make my rebuttal from earlier?
So where are we at here? So we're at 14.
We're gonna have two rebuttals back to back. I guess.
So go ahead and you do your rebuttal first.
Because I just cheated off of your sheet and saw who you have.
So I have 14. This is a 4-person difference. So go ahead.
So this is where I have Garnett. Garnett was Giannis before Giannis. Garnett was just as impactful on the league as Giannis has been. Now, granted,
I agree right now.
Now, granted, Garnett probably also had some of the same struggles in the playoffs because he didn't really have good teammates.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't. I mean, he had very bad. When the best teammate that you can say Garnett had in Minnesota was Sam Cassell, that is a problem.
Yep,
that is a massive problem. And he still took that team to a number 1 seed in the West.
Mm.
And by the way, how long did the Minnesota Timberwolves miss the playoffs after he left?
Like a century. Like
it could legally drive. It could legally drive in some states. That playoff drought. Sorry, Sean. Sorry for the PTSD. Sorry. But it was bad. It was bad because Garnett was that good. Garnett went to the Celtics and was better than Pierce, was better than Allen, and Garnett sacrificed because he wanted to win.
Mm-hmm.
Garnett didn't need any other scoring numbers because Garnett had just led his team in 4 of the 5 statistics.
Mm-hmm.
Garnett could have easily been in the running for 2 or 3 more MVPs. And the fact that he only won 1 defensive player is just testament to how great Ben Wallace is.
Yep.
I mean, so Garnett was one of the guys who is going to become more underrated because the legend of Paul Pierce claims he got a cramp when really he just crapped his pants. And that's the only reason people think Garnett is worse than he is.
Yeah, I don't have really anything to add. You could easily have Garnett up this high. I don't, but you can easily make the argument. We're in that area where it's just razor thin margins, and so I don't have anything to add there. I'm going to go with Jerry West. I do want to point out you said that Jerry West and Oscar Robertson have the same amount of titles. That is correct. However, Jerry West went to the finals 8 other times. And he did lose. But I want to point out this.
He is the only Finals MVP to lose a final. Mr. Clutch would have another ring if his 75-foot heave had been counted for 3 points instead of 2 points that it was worth at the time. He sent a Game 7 to overtime with a 75-foot heave, and it only counted for 2 points. Here's the thing. He was absolutely incredible. He was one of the greatest defenders ever. Keep in mind, the 6'2" Jerry West once in the finals put up 44 points, 12 rebounds, 12 assists, 10 blocks, and 5 steals. His team lost. Jerry West was let down by his team a lot. And it's honestly, I had Elgin Baylor in my top 20, and I dropped it because he failed Jerry West a lot. He did not live up to his potential. Even though the two of them would score, their teammates did let them down a ton. But I'll just be completely honest. Jerry West is the fact that he only has one championship, not at all his fault. He did absolutely everything he could. And he is also one of the 3 people to have an assist championship and a scoring title. I think it's 3. So
I think it's 3 because you've got Tiny and Harden.
I think Tiny and Harden are the
and Tiny did it in the same year, which is crazy.
But yeah, that's all I've got.
But my only rebuttal I have for that, I have Elgin in my top 25. But it's kind of why I knock West down, is he had another top 25 guy. To get to that, it's why I'm gonna have Bill Russell a little lower, because his entire team is top 100 guys. He's just full of these, like Bill Russell beat the Celtics beat everyone with the Celtics because they had all the best players and there was no ability for player movement.
Mm-hmm. All right. So before we get onto that, all right, we'll go on to the next, our next position here. Number 13, we're going to get here. Whoever would like to start at 13, go for it. I guess you've already kind of hinted at yours.
This is where I have Durant, and I have no problems with how Jordan had Durant. I think he described Durant perfectly.
So I'll go with I have Curry here. Look, he was absolutely incredible. He led some of the best offenses ever. I believe he actually led the best offense ever. I think it's actually 2 of the top 5, which it does help the fact that Draymond Green and Andrew Bogut never set a legal screen in their life. But still, his defense, like Dirk, is underrated. Both of them are average defenders. They are not terrible defenders. They are average. People who say that Dirk was a bad defender are only remembering like the last 7 years of Dirk, because Dirk played for like forever. And people who say that Steph Curry are bad defenders, they're talking about like in the finals when he gets switched onto LeBron James. Like, what's he supposed to do there? Like, sorry, not sure what you're saying. Like, what's Steph supposed to do?
He's one of the worst defenders on that team, but that team had
that team was one of the best defensive teams of all time.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give you any argument. I actually have Steph next. I have Steph as well.
Okay.
You go ahead and make your Steph case.
My Steph case at 12, 2-time MVP, should be way more Finals MVPs. Like,
yes.
Why on earth does Iggy have a Finals MVP? Just because he played on LeBron. By the way, you shouldn't get Finals MVP because you locked down LeBron and LeBron put up all the stats.
Like
all the stats.
It's in like 13.
Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving were hurt. That doesn't count. That doesn't count. Give Steph his Finals MVP.
Agreed.
Sorry. Steph won an MVP and then turned around and had a better year. Yeah. I mean, I don't think he deserved the first MVP. I think you could make a good argument that LeBron and Harden probably both had better years than he did the first time. The second time, nope. No, it was the only unanimous MVP ever for a reason. I mean, it was one of the most dominant seasons of anyone ever in the history of sports. And my only problem is Durant going to Golden State hinders Curry's greatness in my mind because of how stacked that team got.
Yeah.
And we'll see this with someone who will come up a lot later in these rankings for me. We will see this. I place a lot of value on someone who could do it by themselves. And I don't think while Steph is capable of being the best amongst really good people, he's not to the type where he could take a literal turd and make it shine.
Okay.
All right. So we're gonna before we go to your 12, this is the second biggest difference of opinion there is on this list.
Okay. This is where I have Hakeem Olajuwon.
This is blasphemy. To borrow my Stephen A. Smith, this is blasphemy. I should be yelling till I'm hoarse right now.
Okay. So look, this is not a knock on Hakeem. This is everyone else is absolutely incredible. The difference to me between like 4 and 12 is nothing. 5 and 12. It's basically nothing. It's razor thin margins between 5 and 12. It's just they're so close to each other. I do think that there's a tiny drop, like 7, 6, and 5 are they do have a little bit better, but man, 12 to 8 are just they're so close. You could move them anywhere, and I'd be totally fine. Hakeem was awesome. Hakeem was fantastic. We grew up in Nigeria. We love Hakeem.
We were born in the early 90s. I'm surprised my name is not Hakeem and yours isn't Olajuwon.
Yeah.
I mean, and our dad's from Houston.
We lived in Nigeria in the early 90s. Like, I'm just saying, Hakeem's awesome. There's nothing to say about it. He was awesome.
Why is he 12?
Because there are other players who are also awesome.
All right. So who's 11 then?
So actually, all right. So actually,
do I get to respond now, or do we need to wait till we get to the top of the list when I get to talk about Hakeem?
We're gonna take a break, and we're gonna let that be the hook.
Ooh,
So we're gonna take a little bit of a break, and we're gonna divide here.
That's great.
So I think we're gonna post this one back to back, so just that way you know. But we don't want to, hold you. Otherwise, this list is gonna take 90 minutes, and we don't want you to have to listen to us for 90 minutes straight. So we're gonna take a little bit of a break, but there's your little hook. This really is the best place for a break, and you will notice that as soon as we get back. So for that, we're gonna see you, and we'll see you hopefully shortly. If you can handle us for 90 minutes, come back and handle it for 90 minutes. But otherwise, just come back in like a couple hours or a day or at some point.
Just come back.
We'll see you.
We'll see you guys.